Instagram. Like many of you, it's an app that I've used all my life. In fact, it's hard to imagine what it would be like to go one day without it. It's where we get our daily dose of what our friends are doing, what our favorite influencers are saying. It's become this app that does everything, arguably a bit too much, but one thing is for certain, our early adulthood and childhoods are built on it. And as we've used it for the last decade, most of us haven't thought twice about how this app has come about. Just 10 years ago, this app was completely different. Not because Kendall Jenner wasn't there to be this AI bot that gives you advice, but Instagram's whole mission, their whole vibe was completely different. It was never supposed to be what it is today. It's a story of two co-founders, Kevin and Mike, who were silently hijacked of the very own business that they created. A story of power and betrayal.
We grew to 1,000 people on the team. I got to do everything from meeting the Pope to meeting some idols. It was crazy.
The entire history of Instagram, I guess, starts on a sunny day in 2006.
Hey, you're Kevin Systrom, right? The guy that built Photobox?
Yes, the story actually starts here, way before Instagram ever existed. Sitting down at a random coffee shop in San Francisco, a man who would later be one of the richest people in the world asked Kevin Systrom about a small website he built.
Yeah, that's me. How's it going?
Kevin Systrom was a young, curious Stanford student who was obsessed with the internet in its early days. One of the first successful projects he built was a website called Photobox, a place to upload large photos which you could then print out. This website caught the attention of Mark Zuckerberg, someone who was working on another website that was growing quite rapidly, thefacebook.com. Zuckerberg, a guy with ambition that reached the moon, wanted to move fast and snag talent as soon as possible.
All you have to do is drop out, leave school, and join me. It's gonna be great.
Kevin was skeptical of this wild vision. He admired and secretly was jealous of the startup lifestyle that Mark had going on, but he couldn't give up his seat at an Ivy League school.
I don't think I'm gonna do it. I don't think I'm gonna do it.
So what does Kevin end up doing? On a summer trip, he ends up taking an internship in Florence, Italy, and here he finds a passion for photography. There's gotta be a better way of explaining this part of the video, but how? Maybe I can use a wall? Not enough space there. That's already taken. These big red boots are in the way over here. Wait a minute, that's a little unused strip of the content closet I could use. All right. So after his trip to Florence, Kevin decided to take an internship at a company called Odeo. Now, let me be honest with you, I did a ton of research on Odeo and I still don't really know what it is. Something to do with RSS feeds, ancient internet technology. But the most important thing at this internship was he met an influential figure in his life. An engineer named Jack Dorsey. And if you know who that is today, he's the founder of Twitter and a couple other companies like Block/Square. Pretty important guy. And he comes back later in the story. So during all this, and especially after meeting Mark Zuckerberg, Kevin always had dreams of making his own company, but he was afraid. So like most 22-year-olds in his position, he took a cushy job at Google. In fact, worked on Gmail. But this slow corporate 9-to-5 soon got boring for him, and that's when he started making web apps at night. Wait, so you're building something called Twitter now?
Yeah, man. The Odeo team is pivoting to a microblogging site. It's kind of like what we've always talked about in the past. This is the future, Kevin. We've always talked about building something bigger than ourselves. Bigger than the world could ever imagine. This internet thing could really take over.
Building something bigger than ourselves? This internet thing could take over? So in 2010, Kevin meets a guy named Mike Krieger, who's a fantastic engineer, someone who knows how to make web apps just as good as Kevin. And it was at this point that Kevin took it as a sign to quit his cushy job at Google after 4 years and take that leap of faith, the thing that he's always wanted to do in the back of his head, make an app, build a company. So being in Silicon Valley, he knew investors and was able to raise money for his app, Bourbon.
So in 2010, there were these things called check-in apps that were super popular, and Kevin and Mike decided to make their own iteration of one. That's what Bourbon was supposed to be. It was a place where you can send status updates to your friends, you could share where you're going, you get points for having people together, and you could share photos. But when they launched this app, unfortunately, Kevin's worst nightmares came true. It didn't do well. In fact, it completely flopped. And after spending months on this design thinking it was gonna work, Kevin started to question his integrity. Should he have stayed at Google? Should he have accepted that job with Mark Zuckerberg in 2006 because Facebook at this time was doing phenomenal? Was he not cut out to build his own app? One of Kevin's lessons to early entrepreneurs today is this idea of simplifying.
It was clear people liked the photos because that was the thing they were doing. And we just said, okay, like what if we just cut out most of the other stuff and focus on that thing? And then it happened to be a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's that easy, by the way.
And so Kevin and Mike decided to scrap all the other features and just make it a photo sharing platform. And because it felt like an instant telegram, the app became Instagram. And so once they released this app to the public, it was immediate success. So by 2012, Instagram was in the big leagues. It was closing in on 30 million users. What started as a platform for just posting pictures on the internet soon became the pulse of America's social interactions. Instagram was just a small team of 13 people and had no plans at this point of making revenue. So they had to raise some money, and Kevin and Mike thought of a $500 million valuation. This was quickly laughed at by the venture capital world. It was just too high. However, one of the earliest investors and users of Instagram, Jack Dorsey, thought differently. He believed in it from the start and was actually using the app quite frequently. And now, seeing that Instagram needed more money, he went in for the kill.
You know, I gotta give it to you. You've come a long way since the Odeo days.
Said Jack, enjoying an expensive glass of whiskey as he nervously thought through how to mention his plan.
Yeah, man, it's been a crazy ride. The last year's been nuts.
Chimed Kevin, a bit tipsy off his second glass of whiskey.
You know, it's crazy, but we're trying to raise a little bit of money right now. I mean, earlier today, I was just pitching Mark and Dreesen.
Yeah, speaking of that, I actually wanted to talk to you about funding. You know, Twitter's been in a really good place recently, and we heard through the grapevine that you're trying to raise $500 million. I mean, we have all the resources, and I know it's crazy, but what if we bought your whole company? You know, the board really believes in me, and most importantly, they really believe in you, Kevin. So, what do you say? Join us, just like the old times.
Jack nervously took down the rest of his glass, fully expecting a more excited reaction from Kevin. Did he mess up?
Wow, Jack, I mean, super grateful, but candidly, I'm a little torn. We could use Twitter's resources right now, but I just don't know if I want to leave Instagram yet.
No, you don't have to leave, of course. I mean, we're just planning on buying the company, but you could stay the head of Instagram. I mean, there's so many details to figure out. Just don't worry about it. We'll just figure it out later.
I'm so sorry, Jack. I have to take this. Give me 1 second. Hello?
Hey, it's Mark Zuckerberg. I heard you're going around town raising money at $500 million. Let me be straight with you, and you be the same with me. Facebook buys Instagram, $1 billion. You heard that right, billion with a B. I can get the paperwork ready this week. I just need an answer right now.
There were 4 reasons to why Kevin accepted selling Instagram to Facebook, a decision that changed the tech industry forever. An app with 13 employees and no plan to make it revenue became the second billion-dollar exit of its kind, right behind YouTube. First, the deal was partially done in stock, meaning that if Facebook grows, then Instagram would too, and the valuation would be over $1 billion. Retrospectively, that was an incredible decision. Second, Kevin knew that Mark Zuckerberg was different. He was ultra competitive, and if Instagram said no, Facebook would just try to build their own Instagram product. This acquisition took out the largest competitor. Third, as we know, Instagram was struggling with server problems and Facebook had a plethora of resources. Instagram could continue to grow with no worries. And fourth, most interestingly of all, Zuckerberg promised independence. He promised that Kevin and Mike could continue operating Instagram as its own company inside of Facebook. And let's be clear, this is quite unique. We haven't really seen this in business before. As far as Jack, he felt betrayed once he heard the news. A longtime friend of Kevin's, an early investor and believer in Instagram, and an avid user, he was shoved out. The day he heard the news was the last day he ever uploaded to Instagram, to this day. Now, this acquisition wasn't easy. The Federal Trade Commission questioned if Facebook bought Instagram, would that make it a monopoly in this space? Well, long story short, this acquisition went to trial, and Mark Zuckerberg played Congress like a chess grandmaster to a rookie. Facebook was a master at strategically massaging the truth to reduce government scrutiny, presenting itself as a scrappy upstart when it wasn't. In 2012, the world didn't understand what the true currency of social media companies were. It's not dollars, it's minutes of human attention. Analysts would later say that approving this acquisition was the largest regulatory failure of the decade. So Instagram, as expected under Facebook, continued to grow and grow. Kevin's vision was flourishing until one day when he moved everyone to One Hacker Way, Facebook's headquarters. Facebook had an intense focus on growth. They obsessed over how to get more users and how to keep those users on the platform at all costs. And Kevin wanted Instagram to grow, but not at all costs. He refused to let go of its core value. But now, confronted with Facebook's hacker culture, they knew what they weren't. Instagram wanted things to be carefully considered and designed before they were released to people, humans, not numbers. Was it possible to keep Instagram, this beloved darling underdog, inside this mighty, disliked behemoth that was Facebook? Well, almost right away, the public started turning on Instagram. The earliest Instagram scare had to do with their terms of service. When they first started, they had some boilerplate TOS because, let's be honest, no one ever reads them. But when Facebook bought the platform, they decided to make one more official. Facebook claims the perpetual right to license all public Instagram photos. Boycott Instagram. Delete, delete, delete. Dear Instagram, it was fun while it lasted. Kevin underestimated the mistrust that Facebook garnered, and it would pose hard challenges for many years to come. On the flip side though, Instagram's impact on culture kept growing, and a new industry was born.
Omar, I need you to break out of the Mark Zuckerberg role real quick and answer one simple question. How has Instagram changed your life?
This is me?
Yeah.
Instagram completely changed my life, man. Like, literally, the experiences I get, every single thing I do in my life is because of Instagram. It was like built on that foundation. Like, I get to live an amazing life, and I'm like so grateful for it. And it literally is all because of Instagram. Like, it's mind blowing to think it was just an Instagram page in like 2013 that kind of started all this. I went from being a fan of just sports in general to actually being at all these games, meeting these athletes, and kind of being part of this whole sports media industry. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you could not really break into this industry unless you were like a writer or maybe a television talent. And I got to break in as like a social media influencer, all because of Instagram. And Instagram opened that door, following, engagement, all of those metrics was kind of mind blowing to all of these businesses. And it opened so many doors for me.
Instagram developed another problem as it grew. There became this pressure to curate the perfect images, and soon employees noticed that the everyday person would post less and less. And this dichotomy created a hole in the market.
Was there a place to document and share your life without this pressure? Be able to capture moments and share them with your friends that may disappear into the abyss after 24 hours. Well, a new sheriff entered the town and promised just that. A photo sharing platform that took over the hearts of teenagers all over the world. Snapchat. The inception of Snapchat stories was a threat in Mark Zuckerberg's eyes. He famously tried to buy Snapchat for $3 billion, only for the 23-year-old founder, Evan Spiegel, to more shockingly decline. Unlike Mark, Kevin Systrom didn't care about Snapchat. He built Instagram on this culture of quality and inspiration, everything that Snapchat wasn't. For months, Kevin had to fight off employees who all suggested to put Snapchat stories onto Instagram, even though he didn't want to. Until one day,
We need to create stories for Instagram.
absolutely not. We've already talked about this. We're not doing that.
Kevin, Instagram numbers are going down. People are feeling way too much pressure to post.
Instagram will not be a place for half-eaten sandwiches or any of that garbage. If there was a scale of quality from 1 through 10, Instagram is the place for 7 and above. I built Instagram on this foundation. If anything, we're doubling down on that.
Have you seen this?
It's been an amazing time here at the Oscars. If you'd love an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at my time here, subscribe to my Snapchat.
Here's the reality of the situation. Either you build stories on Instagram and let go of your damn ego, or I'll build stories within Facebook with or without you.
It was this moment that shocked Kevin out of his own trance. That promise of independence Mark gave during acquisition was just smoke and mirrors. He realized there was no disagreeing with Mark, because deep down, Instagram and Facebook were still competitors. Any successful update of Instagram was a successful update taken away from Facebook.
Zuckerberg thought that the research showed that it was likely Instagram would threaten Facebook's continued dominance, and that the cannibalization would start in the next 6 months. You're at a fork in the road.
Kevin thought to himself.
Either you can stay the same and hold on to this idea of Instagram, or you can join in.
Kevin realized in that moment, Instagram was no longer the beloved startup he once found. It was no longer the app that prioritized human design and human art. It was no longer his. Rather, now part of a Goliath that's goal was attention domination.
And that's it. 742 words in a neatly packaged letter to the world saying that Kevin and Mike were out. It was vague yet concise, simple yet poetic, grateful yet simultaneously everyone noticed that one thing was missing. There was no mention of Mark Zuckerberg. Which leads us to today. It's been 5 years since the original co-founders, Kevin and Mike, have left Instagram. And even though the company is still a behemoth, it's different from even then. We've seen this app reinvent itself over and over again, especially over the last 5 to 6 years. Actually, let's just go through the list. So in 2018, right as Kevin was leaving the company, they released IGTV, which was a clear competitor to YouTube. Then in August of 2020, they released Instagram Reels, which is just a clear competitor of TikTok. Then in 2022, they released Dual Camera, which was just a clear competitor of BeReal. Then comes 2023, where they released Threads, which is a clear competitor of, you get the idea. And today we have AI chatbots. I guess Instagram is a place now where I can talk to Kendall Jenner and Tom Brady's alter egos about my life problems. Like, how do we get here? What has this app become? In my opinion, it's easy to look at all this and say, they're doing these updates because capitalism. They're trying new things and jumping on trends like AI and Twitter dupes because it's gonna make them a ton of money. And don't get me wrong, that's true. But there's a part of me that wonders, is there a larger reason? And that's when I ironically found this podcast clip of Kevin Systrom himself.
I think Facebook's main issue today is like, you need to produce a hit. If you don't produce hits, it's really hard to keep consumers on your side. Then people just start picking on you for a variety of reasons, whether it's right or wrong. I'm not even going to place a judgment right here and right now. I'm just going to say that it is way better to be in a world where you are producing hits and consumers love what you're doing. The past 10 years for Facebook has been fairly hard on this dimension.
The last 2 decades are going to be in history books. It's absurd. I can't imagine going one day without Instagram today, but 10 years ago, it was just another app like Temple Run or the calculator app that was on your phone. It's absurd that Kevin's original vision of creating an app that was supposed to be a seamless way to share photos is now this ecosystem of communities, advertising, shopping, connections, careers, and whatever else Instagram will inevitably become. What if Kevin never left that cushy job at Google? What if he never met the ultra-talented Mike Krieger? And of course, what if Kevin never made that decade-defining decision to sell Instagram to Facebook? What would the world be today?
Kevin, been a minute.
Jack, how are you, man? Jack, remember back in our rodeo days when we said we'd build something bigger than ourselves? Something bigger than the world would ever imagine? Something that would take over the internet?
Yeah, how funny, building something bigger than ourselves.
Well, I think we did.
We're also very focused on giving all of you the ability to build AIs too.
Hey, it's Mark.
Instagram has become a popular way to share the photos they take.
No, you don't have to leave, of course. I mean, we're just planning on buying the company.
When Mark Zuckerberg bought your company, he pledged to let you work independently. Has he lived up to that?
Here's the reality of the fucking situation. I'm joking. I'm so cold.
What, Kevin? I don't care about Instagram, Kevin.
This video took 3 months to make. Like and subscribe.
I have a beard.